So whenever the topic of introversion and extroversion comes up in a conversation, people always say the same thing to me. You're not introverted. They'll say to me stuff like, you're definitely an extrovert. And I'll tell people, no, I'm actually quite severely introverted. Like on the spectrum, I'm, way on that end. I am not extroverted at all. People don't believe it. They'll say stuff like, but you're not shy, but you're super outgoing. You're always doing social stuff, which is actually, that comes from a lot of misconceptions about what introversion actually is. Simply put, introversion doesn't mean that you have to be some loner who doesn't like other people's company. It just means you get energy from being alone more than you get energy from being with other people. For example, if you're an extrovert, you will leave a social function like a party or something with more energy. Whereas if you're introverted, you'll leave it with a feeling of depletion, like your batteries need recharging. Quick test to find out if you're more introverted or more extroverted is, do you feel more energetic after spending time alone reading books, maybe walking through nature, being by yourself, doing something artistic alone? Or do you need to be around other people, like having long conversations with people, going to parties? Are you the life and soul? That's a quick tip. There's other tips to figure it out, and there's a lot of nuance in it. And there's also, it's a spectrum. It's not just like you're introverted or you're extroverted. Like me, I would be on the spectrum maybe here. Definitely in the introvert corner, but not fully over here. Anyway, so people typically think I am an extrovert, and I can fool extroverts almost 100% of the time, and I can fool other introverts maybe 95% of the time. I mean, if I actually just full on tell you that I am, and you're an introvert and you have a good social understanding, intuition about other people, you'll know, you can tell from my energy where I fall on that side of the spectrum. But anyway, the reason why I can get away with fooling people is because I have a set of principles and practices that I follow to make me seem more extroverted. And this has come in very handy because in today's world, especially in the West, if you are not more on the extroverted side of things, you can find things difficult. Everything from, job interviews to making new friends and stuff like that, especially in today's more isolated world where everybody's more increasingly alone anyway. It's hard enough, everybody making their new friends through Instagram and Tinder and shit like that. But if you're already naturally introverted, it makes the times when you have to be social that much harder. Anyway, I'm assuming you're introverted or you believe yourself to be an introvert if you're watching this video because you clicked on a video called Life Tips for Introverts. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go real quick and we're gonna get into the good stuff. I'm gonna teach you how to appear and feel more extroverted. Obviously, the goal isn't that you want to become an extrovert, and to be honest, although you can shift these psychological traits a little bit, you really can't change things completely. And if you can, it's definitely not going to happen overnight. But it's if you're introverted, you're always really going to be introverted. And that is not a bad thing. In fact, I think it can be a very powerful personality to have. But what we want to do is we just want to make life a little bit easier. So here's some tips, tricks, hacks for introverts so you can live your life, day-to-day life, with more success, more happiness, more energy. So the first tip, and this is super simple, this is something you can do right now, is to fix your posture and the way you look. Now, regardless of if you're introverted or extrovert, most people's posture sucks. And that's because, again, I'm gonna blame the smartphone here. I'm gonna blame, the technology and stuff like that. But I think it has pretty much always been the case. It's just got worse recently. People are slouched over, their chin is down, their shoulders are hunched, they walk like they shuffle, they don't stride. And how your body operates in the world gives your mind and your emotions a feedback circuit. So if you are slunched over and your shoulders are hunched, that is going to signal to your brain that you are depressed or sad or not confident or anxious, stuff like that. Whereas you can immediately change your energy and how you feel about yourself and the world by just fixing your posture. So the first thing you want to do is you want to stand up straight and sit up straight. So you want to imagine that you have a hook in the back of your spine at the top and it's dragging you up. You know, imagine like a horror film, like some sort of like dude from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has just got you, hooked you up somewhere. It's kind of like that. You want to be nice and straight, shoulders back, and constantly monitor for tension in your body throughout the day. So if you feel that your shoulders are quite a bit tense, actively release them. Put them back, but actively release them. Another thing you will want to do is your posture. Jump up and down, just jump up naturally, and however you land with your feet is like how your stance should naturally be. And what you'll find is it's probably a little bit wider than what you're currently doing. Gives you a bit more space, makes you feel a bit more dominant, a bit more powerful. And you know what? You don't want to be like super cliche, not cliche, you don't want to like look like a joke or anything. So you don't want to go massively wide. But what you could do is find how your body naturally wants to be and make it just a little bit wider. So your feet will be planted on the floor a little bit more than shoulder length apart, okay? Other things you want to do, you can do posture exercises. So there's a really famous TED talk by, it's Amy Cuddy, I think, and she talked about how you can use body language to like hack your confidence and shit like that. And so she said if you have a job interview or you're going on a date and you're feeling nervous, what you can do before is to like do the Superman pose. You know, plant your hands on your hips, push your chest outright, and just take up more space. Now, as a little test, what you could do right now is to spend the next minute or two hunched over on your chair, okay, with your arms crossed, defensive, protective posture, and monitor how you feel. All right, you will feel something tangible quite quickly, and then for the next 2 minutes, stand in the Superman posture. Maybe you even want to put your arms up in the air, you know, like when you watch an athlete that's just won the race, hands are up in the air, you know, arms are wide, chest is open, expose your throat. This is a very dominant, powerful posture thing, because when we hide our throat, what we're actually doing is we're signaling that maybe we're weak and we're scared of conflict. Somebody could go for the throat and hurt us. But when we expose it, we're saying, hey, here I am, you know, I'm strong, come at me. Like, I don't care, I'm exposed. Like, you're giving yourself a very powerful reinforcement in your body and in your mind. So that's number one thing you want to do. You can also do exercises that are great for posture. What I would recommend is anything that can pull your shoulders back, you know, get your posture like more upright and counteract the slouch that you get from daily sitting behind the computer. What exercises are these? We're talking about pull-ups, wide grip pull-ups. You know, you go all the way to the bottom, get a good stretch, come up to the top, you know, pause and just feel the stretch through the whole range of motion. Okay, if you can't do one pull-up yet, there are like at the gym assisted pull-up machines. Start with that. That'll take some of your body weight off, make it easier. But your aim should be to get onto real pull-ups ASAP. You want to get to the point where you can bang out 10 in a row. That would be fantastic. As an added benefit, you also look really good. You also want to focus on compound movements. Okay, so compound movements are things like the bench press, squat, and deadlift. You can look up online how to do those if you're not already familiar with them. Just be super careful and focus on what your posture is like. Get in a good range of motion and performing the action like correctly instead of high weight. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can get 2 dumbbells in your hands, and you're going to have your hands like pronated, facing away from you, and then you'll move the dumbbells behind you. And, you know, just stretch your shoulders as you're doing so. Maybe you can touch the dumbbells behind your back and then just go back and forth, back and forth. You're going to have like a really light weight in the dumbbells for this. It's just to get your chest opening up. Another great movement you can do is called the dumbbell fly. So you'll get 2 dumbbells in your hands, you'll lie on a bench and you'll have them straight up, and then lower the dumbbells to your side so that your arms are fully outstretched, and then you'll come back up like you're doing a bear hug, squeezing the pectorals. But what you really want to focus on is the bottom part, the movement here. And what you could also do is, again, going really light, pick up some dumbbells, and while standing, hold them up in the air like this. And so you'll feel so triumphant afterwards. You'll get this boost of confidence, okay? Other things to do with appearance. Make sure you're wearing good clothes. And by good clothes, I don't mean you have to splash out. You're not going to be buying Gucci and shit like that. Like, you could get stuff from H&M, like super cheap stuff. The key is to have it well fitting and coordinated. So just some basic plain colors that fit your body really, really well. And this as well will signal to other people that you are someone to be respected, you're someone that's quite powerful, and it might even signal that you're outgoing and extroverted. Okay, so good fitting clothes coupled with good posture is going to be probably the most powerful hack out of all of these. But we got more. So, next one. So this is what I do. I like to batch my social times and batch my alone time. So batching is where you block off some time, and it's a long period of time. I got this concept from Deep Work by Cal Newport, where you focus on one thing, okay? So for example, I might in the morning batch creative time and I might write for 4 hours. Or you might batch your gym time and say, right, this evening I'm going to be at the gym for 2.5 hours, and you just focus solidly on that. I do a similar thing with my social throughout the week, and I've noticed that I much prefer it energy-wise if I, for example, have a social thing 3 days in a row or 2 days in a row and then have 2 off, rather than just scattergun, it happens when it happens, or I have every day in a row or every day off. For my energy levels, and you'll have to play around for your personal energy levels, I find that works really well. So like if I'm batching and I have 2 days social, 2 days off, I mean, I'm still working on the social days, but it's just like I have things arranged. I'm going to see people, maybe take a class, maybe go to a bar or something like that. I feel like I can get into a bit of a flow and a rhythm that's quite sociable. And then to counteract it, I have the time off where I can focus on myself and recharge. This might work not because I'm necessarily introverted, but because I have some neurotic traits. So I don't know if there's a relationship between neuroticism and introversion, but if you know that yourself is quite neurotic, and quite introverted at the same time, this works really well for lowering stress and boosting energy. Another tip. Have a recharge ritual. So like I've had it where I've been around people 24/7 for long periods of time. I've lived with people, roommates, family, and I've also lived alone. And what I have found is that while I do enjoy having people around, the long stretches of time with constant companionship depletes me. And it's not until I start going alone and start doing like maybe some meditation, reading a book alone without anybody, even in the house, in the vicinity, that I realize that I get my energy back. So it's quite insidious. You don't realize until you've been with someone for a long time and then you take a time off, just how much energy you've been like dripping away on a daily basis. Anyway, so what I would suggest is you have a recharge ritual. This is fucking fundamental for introverts, and this is something you might want to do before a big event. Maybe you're going to a wedding, or you're going to a party, or you have to give like a presentation at work or a job interview. You can do this before and afterwards to maximize your energy levels and make sure you're at peak, and then you can like cool off and get your energy back. For me, a recharge ritual will look like I wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is I go into a yoga flow for like 20 minutes, doing the downward dog, doing cobra, getting all the blood flowing, getting some stretching. This returns to the posture thing. I will also make sure that I drink a lot of water throughout the day. This is quite fundamental. It's one of those little things that you don't really think about, but this should be something that you do automatically. Just keep topping it up. There's tons of benefits like this. I don't really need to tell you why you should drink water. Just do it. And then another tip I would say is to do Wim Hof breathing. If you don't know what there is, I've got an article on it on my website at benjaminmcavoy.com. You can see in the link below. But basically, Wim Hof breathing is a magical, I say magical, but that's quite exaggerated, but it is very effective. It's a magical breathing system. It's a diaphragmatic breathing where you flood your body with oxygen. It's you can find out how to do it online for free if you type Wim Hof into YouTube. I recommend his videos with Lewis Howes and also Joe Rogan, where he demonstrates the breathing. But if you want to splash some cash, He also has a fucking pricey course, which is actually the best investment I've ever made. It's a breathing course. So this breathing, if you Google it, you can see how you do it, will flood your body with oxygen. It will bring stress levels down. It will reduce inflammation. It gets rid of depression, gets rid of anxiety, alkalizes the blood. It does so many great things. I would say this type of breathing, coupled with a meditative practice, is extremely powerful. Not just for introverts, for everybody, but especially for us introverts. And then, as part of the recharge ritual, you also want to hit the gym, and you want to hit it hard. You want to do some weight training, and you want to do some cardio. So heavy weight training is good. The main lifts, get it out of your system. You don't have to be there for hours, like 40 minutes tops is pretty good. 20 minutes of cardio. So this might be the bike, it might be the elliptical machine, it might be running, doesn't matter. Just get your heart rate elevated for a consistent amount of time and get sweaty. All right, you'll get all these endorphins flowing through you. You'll feel great. Another endorphin boost is to go on the sunbed. Like I'll typically go on the sunbed 10 minutes, and it's not so much to get a tan, because I don't tan easily. It's because it gives me a bit of an endorphin kick. Now, yeah, I know it's not the safest thing to go on the bed, but I do take my necessary precautions to make sure I don't get any skin problems, and I don't do it that frequently. But hey, if you don't have a problem with that and you're sensible, I recommend that right after the gym. It's a great combination. You can also take a cold shower or do some sort of cold immersion therapy. Ice bath is best, but a cold shower works really well. If you don't want to do a cold shower, you can do a contrast shower. So you get in, and the first 30 seconds of the shower, ice cold. Then you turn it to hot, okay? And then end on cold. And this does great stuff for the lymphatic system. It gets your blood moving, it gets all the gunk and shit out. It just gets you feeling great. You'll feel uncomfortable during it, but you'll feel like a god after it. So 100% recommend that as well. And that will help bring inflammation down from the weight training. Another thing I'll do is I will fast, so intermittent fasting. This is not something I'll be doing if I need to put on weight, because I'm naturally quite skinny. But for mental clarity, for mood and stuff like that, fasting until at least midday has always been a winner for me. This might not be great for everybody. Some people do need a high quality breakfast upon waking. That's fine. You should play around with it though. Play around with, maybe you just have fats in the morning, okay? Like there's bulletproof coffee. I used to have that for a while. It was where you put butter in coffee, MCT oil. I felt fantastic, but for that you need to be doing some sort of keto diet, so it doesn't work for everybody. So anyway, try fasting. That's great for mental clarity. And then what I'll also do is I'll make sure I'm working on projects that excite me. I can't just do boring day job work all the time. I need to have an artistic passion that I'm working towards, some business goal that gets me up in the morning. And then in the evening, I'll have some sort of treat like that I can recline and watch, like it'll be a movie, a high quality movie, a classic or something like that. Anyway, so that's my recharge ritual. Yours might be different. Play around. There's lots of samples you can find online. There's a great book called The Miracle Morning. I think that works well as a recharge ritual as well. Another tip, okay, is to ask better questions. So people always say I'm a great conversationalist, but most of the time I'm doing 20% of the talking. I mean, sure, if somebody's like my best friend or something, I can talk like 90% of the time, no problem. It's usually closer to about 50-50. But if it's someone quite new, I will put the onus on them to talk. And what happens when people talk like 80% of the time, 70% of the time, they end up thinking the person they're talking to is a good conversationalist. But that's because people like to hear themselves talk more. Few people actually get the opportunity. Few people actually actively listen and take notice. So I would say ask questions that show nuance. Pull at threads in the conversation. If there's something they've mentioned in passing, but it seems like it means something to them, like maybe you're talking about one thing, but they dropped this idea that they went on holiday to Peru, blah, 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 blah. You can follow that thread. Ask questions that are open-ended. So like instead of, did that make you feel bad? How did that make you feel? But what's even better than this is to, instead of asking open-ended questions, I found people are way more likely to get in depth in their answers and think you're a better conversationalist if you throw out statements. So, how did that make you feel? instead of saying that, you could say, that must have made you feel bad, or that must have made you feel confused, and then just silence, and people will pick it up. This is quite a powerful hack. What else can you do? You can refine your non-verbal communication. So I have a style of communication that I call elegant grunting, and I picked up this in during my time in Japan when I was living there. So the interesting thing about living in Japan is the culture is collectivist, which is very different from a lot of Western countries. For example, America, which is individualist. So in Japan, the collective, the group, is more important than the individual. What's good for the group is good for the individual. In the West, it is the opposite. It's all me, me, me. There's this huge flourishing of narcissism. I think that's connected to how society is comprised. But what you'll do, how this manifests in Japan is people will, when you're speaking, people will nod a lot, like nod and nod and nod to encourage you to keep going. They'll also give verbal grunts, which actually means yes in Japanese, or yeah, but they'll make noises, and what this does is it gives the person feedback that you're listening, and they'll keep going and they feel like they're heard. I brought this style of communication instinctively back to England with me, and what I noticed is British people don't do this. When you're talking to a Brit, it's like they just blank stare at you. There's not much nodding, there's not much verbal reinforcement, even stuff like, yeah, oh right, yeah, no. You kind of don't even know they're listening. That's what my thought was. And what I noticed is when people were talking to me, British people, and I would go, yeah, like that during conversation, people give me these funny looks, and some people even brought it up. But ultimately, everybody liked it. They said it felt like you were actually listening to me. So be a weirdo, make weird noises, and nod a lot. That's really important. And another thing, maybe the most important thing, and we're going to end on this, is strong eye contact. Again, this is something that most people are not good at, and it might be a technological thing again. I don't know. All I know is most people can't hold eye contact. The rule of thumb here is if you're actually speaking, it's cool to break eye contact quite frequently. That's normal as you're gathering your thoughts. But if someone's speaking to you, hold their eyes until they look away. You don't have to be creepy about this, but just, examine their eye. What does the eye look like? Think about the color of the eye and stuff like that. We connect with people who make eye contact. Now, if you're looking up here or looking over there, you're not going to connect. I even think about this when I'm making videos. So you'll see some people, they creep me the fuck out. You can tell they're looking at the lens viewer. So for example, if I look here, this is me looking at myself. I can see myself in the lens. And you'll see some weird, creepy, narcissistic people, you know who I'm talking about, who are looking at the lens viewer instead of fucking looking at the camera. Why am I looking directly into the camera instead of looking at myself? Is because this is eye contact, and I want you to feel a stronger bond with me. So even though I'm doing all the talking, I want to make you feel like I'm actually in your presence and we're making a connection. You don't do that if you're looking over here. In real life, that's like you've got a mirror over here and you're looking at the mirror instead of the other person. Anyway, I hope some of those tips are useful. Some of them are quite basic, but the difficult thing is putting them into practice. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you know this stuff, if you don't apply it. And what you might find is if you start applying this stuff, particularly the posture stuff, this can be quite draining, but you'll get used to it, and you'll get this good feedback from the world because people will respond to you very positively, because people respond to confidence, if they're emotionally healthy, very well. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button. If you want to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. And if you've got any questions about introversion, extroversion, anything else, or you just want to leave one of your own tips, feel free to put a comment down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Have a good day.